I have a quote for him, and if this doesn't describe Fred, I want you to tell me. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to manifest the glory of God that is within us, all of us. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates us. Nelson Mandela. Is that Fred? Fred did not fit into a box. He could not be contained. We had our standards of who had status in the ICA. It had to be a first teacher. Fred was the first teacher. It had to be a prior of a house. Fred was prior of several houses. It had to be a prior of a human development project. Fred was prior of a human development project. Fred was all of those things, and he didn't fit in any of them. Not one of them. He was never a company man. He went his own way and irritated everybody who wanted him to be just like everyone else. Fred did not fit in a box, never fit in a box. Fred was delight mostly. He greeted you as though you were the most important person in the world for you to be there. And he loved talking with you. When he was dying in the hospice, I called him and I said, do you have email? I get people to send you emails. No. Well, what about a book thing that they can read the book to you aloud? He said, no, I really like Lindsey reading to me because I can talk to him. He said, actually, I don't want to read anything. I want to talk to people. So I called people, and I got Terry Burdow to call people and said, call Fred. That's all he wants. He wants to talk. You know, Fred, call him. And a lot of people did call Fred. In some unfinished room in Fifth City, when I first joined, and I know you can't tell that now, but I was a pretty shy, uncertain. I didn't know what I was doing. And it was very strange. And Fred took me somewhere. I think we were at the bottom. I keep thinking of a basement. The only basement I know were the unfinished rooms that were then called ABCD. Anyway, we were sitting there, and he said, very friendly like, did you know that we're a religious order? I said, what? He said, we have a covenant to live with each other. And I said, what? And he said, here's the covenant. He showed it to me written out. We're a third order of St. Francis. And I said, what? And I said, I didn't sign anything. You know what? Why wasn't I told this before I joined up? Well, we're just learning all about this. But believe me, you're in a religious order. Fred could convince anybody that it was reasonable to do whatever. Rodney Wilson, who recently died, told me that he remembered when he was over the West Side as a guardian, he wasn't going to do any of the stuff that these ICA people were doing. And Fred somehow got a paintbrush in his hand, and he was there painting the walls because Fred made it sound reasonable that you could do anything. I will never forget, I told this to Paul earlier, but it was really important to me. I was in the cleaning room, or whatever you called it, and was talking a lot, and Fred said to me, do you want to be liked? I did not want to admit that I really wanted to be liked because I was a weakness and we didn't do that sort of thing, you know. And I said, okay, yes. And he said, you got to stop competing with the men. Every time they tell about their achievement, you brag about yours. You can't do that and be liked. You just got to be who you are. And I said, wow. Fred mentored me. Not many people know that, but Fred did look after me. And I'll never forget there was a collegium when Matthews did something very stupid. He made some announcement about what women can no longer do in the universe. And Fred got to me ahead of time and he said, don't make a fuss. Joe Matthews is going to say something and you're going to get up and you're going to scream and shout, as are a couple of the other women, and they're going to be shot down. So keep your mouth shut. No matter what it takes, don't say anything. And sure enough, Matthews got up and made this really stupid announcement about the men are the one we're going to really push, and they're going to do this and that. And I thought, if Fred had not told me, I would be up there saying, "What are you talking about?" But I kept my mouth shut, and the two women who didn't got shot down. One of them was Sarah, of course. And knows who it was. And it was a caring thing for me. And I was very pleased. One of the best things, though, was when we got to Brussels. I was in the Brussels Nexus. Fred was in the Brussels house. He was so proud. He said, "I've got to show you this." He brings me into the altar, and there's this huge chalice and this big loaf of Brussels bread. I mean, gorgeous loaf, huge. And he said, "Look at that." And I said, "Yeah, it's wonderful. No. And he picks it up, and a mouse had made a hole in the bread. I didn't eat the bread. And I thought only Fred would delight in the fact that this holy object had been eaten by a mouse. And, isn't this wonderful? The mouse is eating the bread. I thought, yes, Fred, this is great. That was Fred. When my house burned down in Arizona, Fred came to help build it. And I was really surprised because I had certain views of Fred and hard work. Fred elected to dig out the concrete posts that my old house had been built on. These are huge concrete posts way down. And he, all day, 2 days, dug out those posts. You were there, David, other people were there. He really worked hard to help me to build a house again on the desert of Arizona. And then a little bit later, several years later, Joe Thomas had invited us to come to Mobile, Alabama, to teach an evangelical education course. So Fred and Martha Talbot and I were there, and Joe Thomas, and a hurricane came. And so Joe says, "We've got to board up his building." And Fred said, "Let's drive to Atlanta, Georgia, and escape the hurricane." So we drove as fast as we could to get out of this hurricane, and we laughed the entire time. That's all we did, we laughed. We just laughed and laughed and laughed, and told stories and laughed and laughed and laughed. Well, when I talked to him on the phone when he was in hospice, it was the same old Fred. I felt better because I talked to him. I had a smile because I talked to him. And someone has said, and it's very important, it's not the achievement you have people are going to remember, it's the way you made them feel. That's what you're going to remember. Well, Fred made me feel good. That's all there is to it. Now he's gone. He's dead. He's not with us. He's not coming back. He's not going to delight us again. I've had 3 of my dear friends die this summer, all of whom I've known over 40 years. It's very sad. I don't like the whole idea of death. I don't like the idea of other people dying. I don't mind about me, but I don't like other people dying. He's gone. And I don't know how to talk about it, so I'm going to use some more words. I work with Native American at-risk children, most of whom are from jails. The 2 things they don't believe is that they have any value as a human being and that they can possibly change from the situation they're in now. Well, Fred embodied the old Christ word we used to use in the X. For my kids, the F word is all they know how to say. Life is F. It is freaking bad. It's terrible. It's horrible. Life is bad. Life is bad, bad, bad. Life is bad. Fred lived as though life were good. He was delighted in life. And Fred lived as though every one of us were a valuable human being. He delighted to be with us. He absolutely lived the word that every single one of us is cherished and valuable. In terms of Fred's past, he knew that everything he did, he would laugh at his mistakes. Oops, got fired from that job. Oops, lost that. Oops, didn't get that. I went for this money. Whoop, didn't make that. He knew that the past was woven into our present. And he accepted that which went ahead. Past, future, present, all mixed up. So I can see why Elizabeth became a Buddhist. That influence of is all intertwined. But I think where Fred excelled was that he believed in the future. He believed that we can change, that we don't have to be the same we are today, that we can live in, I don't know what, we can live in the glory of an open thing. Now, I have one word for Fred, but I want to show you something Fred gave me a long time ago. Charles Allen and Don Warren will recognize this. It's a book from the Christian Faith and Life community in our daily office. And I use it a lot. It has wonderful prayers. It has the beginning of our daily office we finally used, and it's in pieces, but that's because I use it. And Fred understood that the holy appears in sacrament, the holy appears in songs, the holy appears in words, the holy appears in kindnesses of people. But here's my word for Fred. Fred frolicked. I have never understood what the word frolic means, but Fred did that. Okay? I can see Fred frolicking. Yeah. That's what he did. He frolicked. And that's my word for it. Fred's life is complete. He will do no more. He'll achieve no more. He's complete in his life. We celebrate that completeness. But we know that he frolicked, and we can frolic also. And in that completeness, we rejoice that we know Fred, and that Fred finally is resting in the hands of God. In the name of the Christ.
I'm really happy to see you all here, and grateful for your presence in tribute to my father. This building, up until today, had simply been a name that I remember from, I think the last time I was here I was 5 years old. But this kind of iconic presence in my life, so it's really great to be back in this space with all of you. I'm wondering where the filing cabinets are, but so I'm gonna, as I think about my father, there's lots of different aspects of his personality that I think about, but I guess what I think about more are the things that he's the gifts that I feel like he's leaving for me, and they kind of work together. There's these two aspects, and one is that he really loved people. He really loved people. I mean, humanitarian in this kind of multi-dimensional, complete way, that he spent so much of his life thinking about people's spiritual development, their intellectual development, their civic development, their community development. And he, as he could, he would think about these things intellectually, but he lived it in such a pure way. And he thought that people connecting was where a lot of our solutions lay. And not just thinking about these things and talking about these things, but literally on a daily basis. Whether he was in a grocery store or an airport, it's not going to go 10 seconds in a public space without talking to a stranger. And it was like he was on this personal mission because he thought we should all know each other, and that through that we could help each other. And that connection and that kind of very basic instinct through action in his love of people is something that's very special to me. But I'm not sure whether it's a manifestation of it or if it's a tool for it. But there was also this fact that he wasn't intimidated by things that were different or new. And that meant going into these subjects that there was all sorts of things that he could accomplish. And I think that when where some might find a fear in the unknown, he saw the adventure and possibility. And that I don't even know whether he saw things as risks sometimes. I don't know whether he's even aware of the risk there. Like he was, someone else can look, I'm going to do the leaping. And he just, go. And I think about some of the decisions in my life that I'm happiest with. And I feel like they were made possible by him sharing some of that with me. And so, as I think about him, I'm grateful for those gifts. And I think those are the things I'm most anxious to pass on to my children.